Ok, parece que agora sim. Então tá, pessoal, chegou o grande dia. Deu um conflito aqui com o áudio. Poxa, sempre tem um problema, né? Mas o importante é que falta alguns instantes para a SpaceX abrir a live lá de lançamento, né, do Starship. E vamos estar aqui acompanhando, né? E eu aqui estou ouvindo o Sacani paralelamente, né? Space Today. Assim que começar a transmissão da SpaceX, eu dou-lhe um zoom aqui. Deixa eu fechar aqui minha imagem para dar uma olhada no Twitter.
Bom dia, Seja. Joga Meus, já joguei de carta, né? Esperamos você.
Vou ter que mudar aqui porque o Twitter é desse outro perfil.
Card Tutor para falar de médica e astronomia. Bora lá. Eu joguei muito médico.
Parece que está correndo tudo certo até o momento. Acontecerá o lançamento, né?
Tradicional, né? Eu sei que hoje tem um médico que...
Não posso me esquecer de abrir o som aqui do desktop no momento que iniciar a live. Abrindo aqui no navegador da esquerda, fecha aqui da direita porque tem muita coisa conflitando, né? Deixa eu fechar aqui. Fecha aqui, fecha aqui. Bom, então vou fechar aqui.
Será que um dia teremos o lançamento?
Não ficar com muita guia aberta pesando, né? Travando o vídeo. Vamos ver o que está acontecendo no Twitter, né? Mais recente.
Rafael Balatti, 1950, tem algum lugar no multiverso onde também existe outro Brasil? Carros, Teste, Starship.
Eu vou ter que fechar aqui o áudio do Sacani porque tá vazando.
Tem tudo, né?
Agora sim. Deixa eu ativar desktop. Desktop.
9 horas.
Tá vazando um áudio
e 48 minutos.
Isso é tão confuso. Pra minha cabeça, pelo menos, dá um nó. Aqui eu fechei. Vamos fechar aqui. Provavelmente aqui não está fechado também. Que áudio é esse? Ah, descobri. Vou fechar aqui. Minha rádio online aqui está transmitindo. Pronto, já era. Eu vou ter que cortar o som da SpaceX, porque a SpaceX usa áudios não gratuitos no YouTube, né? Então se tu usa áudio deles, como aconteceu na transmissão que eu fiz, tentei fazer, foi segunda-feira, né? Levei uma advertência do YouTube, né? Ou seja, não dá para usar. Nada nem no YouTube, nem aqui na transmissão do site deles. Então, temos tempo. Muita gente deve estar transmitindo hoje. Meu intuito aqui é de gravar, né? De salvar essa... E ao mesmo tempo que eu estou navegando, pegar alguma informação extra aqui no Twitter, algum vídeo, alguma foto extra. Muitas lives. Vamos vendo. Que no sul o frio apareceu, né? Começou o inverno, propriamente dito. Manhãs frias. Muita gente anunciando live. Deixa eu dar uma traduzida aqui. A empolgação aumenta para outra tentativa de lançar o enorme Starship Super Heavy do sul do Texas. Eu não me sinto exatamente excitado, mas eu sei que é um momento importante na história, né? Eu acompanhei as lives lá da Boca Chica diariamente por mais de um ano. Eu cansei, né? O progresso é muito lento e ao mesmo tempo 3, 4 anos é muito rápido para chegar nessa concepção aqui do maior foguete do mundo a ser testado hoje em voo orbital. Então, tempo é relativo, né, nesse caso. Carga de propulsão. A equipe está de olho no clima há 1 hora. Sérgio está lá na expectativa, também com o site aberto, né, da SpaceX. Vamos ver o que temos aqui. Teste de voo Super Heavy, 20 de abril. locais de pouso, né? Pousar na água, né? Quem quiser informações, eu aconselho a escutar lá o Serjão, né? Ele simplesmente sabe tudo, né? Então um vai pousar no Oceano Pacífico, o outro no Golfo do México. Há especulações de que será visível mesmo de dia, provavelmente devido ao corpo do foguete ser todo de inox, né, sem pintura, então vai ser altamente reflexível, talvez a ponto de ser visível de dia, então pode acontecer. Eu queria ver aonde que vai passar esse voo, né? Voo orbital. Belas imagens. Aqui no meu perfil tenho... compartilhei. Muito bem. Muito bem, muito bem. Está ativado aqui o áudio do desktop. Então vamos lá. Ó, pessoal, começou. Vamos ativar o áudio, sim ou não? Vamos ver. Tá sem áudio. Tá sem áudio. Mas já tô cortando também porque não dá gancho esse áudio dessa apresentação aí. O YouTube reconhece como de propriedade privada, não pode ser usado. Então, o que eu vou fazer aqui para não travar? Vou fechar o navegador, eu acho. Muita coisa aberta não dá certo. Tá indo, né? Estamos nos encaminhando. Bom, eu vou fechar a guia do YouTube, que é menos um peso. Vou fechar aqui também. Vou ficar com a minha guia da transmissão da SpaceX. E, por enquanto aqui, eu vou dar uma olhada no Twitter. Aqui nesse perfil do Obcecados oficial a gente posta de tudo, né? Relacionado à ufologia, astronomia. Vamos ver que áudio estão transmitindo.
Goes well. We hope to see our Starship spacecraft and Super Heavy booster, which we collectively call Starship, lift off together for the first time in just over exactly 4 minutes from now. Thanks for tuning in. I'm PicPay Pix, Engineering Manager here at Seja.
Vamos fechar tudo que não é necessário. Telegram pesa também, fechar Telegram. Eu tô com minha transmissão aqui também, meu monitoramento. Tá pesando também, eu vou ter que fechar também. Vamos otimizar, vamos fechar. Fechando. Fechando o Paint. Fechando janelas. Explorer. Há muita coisa aberta, não dá certo, né? Não tenho máquina para tudo isso. Agora vamos ver aqui porque que não está rolando o áudio do... Agora sim. Então, pessoal, ajustando tudo ao vivo aqui, atrapalhadas, erros e tropeços. Deixa eu fechar minha rica imagem aqui também.
Now, for today's test, we will be the first of many as we work towards transitioning Starship from a developmental into an operational program. And the primary objective today is to gather as much data as we can around the fully integrated vehicle. Now, while we have flown the Starship spacecraft in the past, it is going to be the first attempt of
Então, pessoal, como eu estava falando nesse perfil do Twitter, o Obcecados oficial, eu procuro postar sempre o mais atual, né? As coisas que estão ocorrendo na ufologia, vídeos interessantes ainda assim, explicação, outros curiosos como esse daqui, né? Seria um skinwalker, parece uma pessoa grande, né? Caminhando de forma esquisita.
At the base of the vehicle and lift off, clear the pad away down from the in Starbase, Texas, and then it'll go into ascent. About 3 minutes into its ascent, we're going to expect to see Super Heavy
Imagino como não está lá hoje, né? Expectativa, né, pessoal? Próximo. Aguardando o lançamento.
Second stage engines ignite and watch us
Starbase vai passar lá no extremo norte do Brasil, talvez alguém consiga ver alguma coisa.
Now, we are not really expecting many camera views after separation, that is to say, if we even make it that far. But we do promise that whatever views we do have, we will bring them to you live.
Yep, we have a couple of ground stations along the way, so if we are able to get good telemetry, assuming we make it that far into the
Starship's first orbital.
those will be available on the stream. And also worth mentioning today,
Isso aqui eles acabaram de mostrar também, né? Roteiro do voo.
Going to be trying to reduce complexity by attempting those hard water landings instead of trying a normal landing like you're used to on Falcon 9.
Exactly. We are not attempting to
Embora tenha aparecido de maneira diferente ali, talvez tenha modificado alguma coisa.
Now, in a little bit, we'll take a closer look at the vehicle and the launch pad, but first, the teams have been doing a tremendous amount of work over the last few months. In fact, there's a great shot of our Hawthorne team up here bright and early to watch the launch. Teams have been prepping really for the last few days, especially to try to get into today's launch attempt.
Não, bate mais ou menos, só que aqui ele tá passando mais afastado da América do Sul, né? Naquela simulação aqui do canal da SpaceX já mostrou passando mais próximo, a ponto de talvez ser visível. Mas acho que está descartada essa possibilidade.
Our Star Command Center, that is our Star-based Launch Control Center.
Yep, those are the operators today who are going to be reviewing all the data and, of course, giving us the go, no-go poll, checking the status to try to get in today's launch attempt just around 27 minutes from now.
And one thing I do want to mention, I misspoke. It's not the South Padre Amphitheater, it's the Cameron County Amphitheater.
Vamos voltar para lá.
Now, the entire Starship structure on your screen is made from stainless steel. When it's stacked, it stands about 120 meters tall. It's about 9 meters around. And we have this awesome video that shows you just how big that is. You can see one of our technicians there doing some final prep work in advance of today's test. And man, there's the 120-meter monster.
The person just keeps getting smaller and smaller. Now, just like Falcon 9, Starship has two
Ou
stages.
seja, tá o mundo inteiro de olho, né?
In addition to those two stages, Starship actually has a third stage, which we call Stage 0. It consists of all the launch pad infrastructure built around the rocket, as you can see there on your screen, and it's really an engineering feat in its own right.
Yeah, we've got a great shot there of the various different components of it, the pad, the infrastructure, all that is required to get into filling the tanks. Now, let's talk about the Super Heavy. Its name says everything. It's super, it's heavy, it's super heavy. When it's operational, it'll be responsible for providing the power to escape the gravitational pull here and take Starship into orbit.
The booster itself stands about 70 meters tall and is roughly the same height as a fully integrated Falcon 9, which is just so crazy to me. But this super heavy booster has a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9, and with 33 much larger engines. We have a beautiful view here. This is one of my favorite views that we're going to get today. Those are our 33 Raptor engines at the base of the super heavy booster.
Yep, and you can see they're in a couple of different rings here. So we've got the outer ring of 20 static engines. They're going to be providing a huge amount of thrust today to lift off the entire stack. But then we've got the 13 gimbaling engines in the middle, and they're going to be providing the tilt maneuvers and also helping to reorient the booster as it comes back later in today's flight.
Yeah, and when we say gimbal, it's basically tilting or almost wiggling the engines a few degrees in either direction to allow the booster to steer itself, just as you said, Shiva.
And we'll get some great shots later of actually a wiggle test that we perform ahead of liftoff, just to make sure that all of those engines are able to
Acho que eu não sigo ele.
One thing to note, those Raptor engines are completely designed and manufactured in-house.
Tem cara que sabe tudo de Starship e o Everyday, com certeza.
Methane oxygen staged combustion type engine. So it's a lot of words there. And ultimately, that staged combustion means that we combust the propellant in stages.
As instalações
in a pre-burner, and by doing so, it allows the engine to be more efficient, i.e., more powerful.
Yeah. Now, like Falcon 9, the Super Heavy has 4 grid fins to assist with orienting.
Isso aqui é irritante, mas demanda muito software, né, para te transmitir, né, ao vivo, mas aparentemente está sem delay. Isso é bom.
But with this flight test, we're still trying to get as much data as we can. We're focusing on the fundamental systems and operations, so that's the liftoff portion. But we are going to try to get some data on how the fins work and for that water landing. That's
baixar um pouco o áudio do desktop e depois eu... Ah, carregou a foto do cara. Estúdiozinho. Miniaturas, né, dos protótipos. Uma boa iluminação. E uma parede cheia de monitores. Eu hoje estou operando com 2 aqui, mas apanhando um pouco. Não estou muito acostumado, então...
Starship is wrapped in a heat shield, which is composed of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate.
Tá muito lento isso daqui, não é para ser assim.
And that's really important because the temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. The hex-shaped tiles, like the ones that Shiva and I have, roughly make up about 2/3 of the vehicle. We can see that we have some different.
Olha as placas de cerâmica aí, que maravilha. Imagina. Aparenta não ser muito pesado. Nem pode, né? Quanto menos peso, melhor. Depois que o Twitter dá pau, esquece. Made out of foam, they're that light, and they kind of sound like it too. And one thing that we do want to mention, in order to reject the maximum amount of heat during that entry, like Shiva was just saying, they're black, and that's because black helps reject that heat that is building up on the exterior of the heat shield.
Now, Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing as opposed to taking off and landing like an airplane, and that's because that's really important because we don't have runways on the moon or Mars. Fortunately, at those destinations, the gravity is not as high as it is here on Earth. On Mars, the gravity is just 1/3 of what it is here on Earth, and on the moon, it's just a 1/6. So in both of those cases, Starship with just its engines can take off without needing the super heavy booster like we do need here on planet Earth.
Now for today's test, Starship does not have its landing legs attached because
já está quase que totalmente carregado, né? Dá para ver pelo branco ali que indica que já está com muito combustível.
Let's check in with John Inspector for a status update. Hey John, how's it looking?
Thanks, Kate. I'm John Inspector, Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently loading propellant from the ground system into both the first and second stages. Now, both vehicles use the same 2 propellants. That commonality helps build the reliability. And the fuel today is liquid methane. And that's at a temperature of just over 100 kelvins.
Interessante, né? Viu como a ilustração mostra bem é um show, né, de cobertura da SpaceX.
Leading up to where we are right now, we had a go-no-go poll that was conducted just after T-2 hours. Once the team gave their goes, we started loading propellants onto the booster at T-1 hour and 39 minutes. At T-1 hour and 22 minutes, we began propellant loading of the ship. The second stage you can see on your screen right there. Now, propellant loading of the Starship's second stage main tanks completed at about the T-.
O ser humano quase que desaparece, né, perto da Starship, né? 120 metros de altura. É algo absurdo. uma das maravilhas modernas, né? Uma realização sem igual, sem precedente, independente do que venha acontecer. Como disse o Elon Musk, a diversão está garantida. Eu acho que vai ser bem sucedido. Os boosters vão pousar na vertical, no mar. Sem problemas.
But right now heading for a T0 at 8:28 Central, 13:28 Universal Time. Kate, everything is looking good.
Awesome news. Now, in order to make life multiplanetary, we need a fully reusable vehicle that's capable of carrying a huge amount of cargo and a lot of people to orbit and have a pretty quick turnaround. The idea is to effectively reuse launch vehicles just like airplanes.
Yeah, imagine if you had to wait for a new airplane to be constructed every time you wanted to fly. You'd rarely go anywhere, and for most of us, it would be completely unaffordable. In order for us to get to Mars and back with lots of people, lots of cargo, multiple times, reusability really is a must.
In advance of our first missions to Mars, Starship will execute a number of missions with both cargo and people, starting with Earth orbit and eventually expanding to the Moon and beyond.
Now, in the near term and a bit closer to home, Starship will also be critical to other programs. Once fully operational, it'll deliver the full-size and upgraded version of our Starlink satellites, and that's super exciting because our next generation satellites represent a step forward in Starlink's capabilities and will allow us to connect millions of more people around the world with high-speed internet to watch launch webcasts.
Such an exciting future ahead of us, but first, let's talk a little about how we got to where we are today.
Now, Starship's testing ramped up in July of 2019 with our Starhopper prototype, sort of a short version of the Starship that we see today. There's a great photo of it. It was just over 18 meters tall. It had a single Raptor engine, and we had it to test fly and perform low-level altitude maneuvers and attempt landing. The initial test flight or hop reached about 20 meters in altitude. That was followed by the one that you've got on your screen here. This was our 150-meter altitude hop. We went up.
T-minus 9 minutes. Now the Starship second stage main fuel and LOX tanks are loaded for flight right now. The super heavy first stage booster propellant loading is continuing, and that'll go till about T-minus 3 minutes. We're underway with engine chill as we get ready for T0, and we're also configuring the launch pad for liftoff. The booster hold downs have been unlatched. They'll be ready to retract at liftoff. And the second stage quick disconnect is beginning its configuration for release. The methane and liquid oxygen propellants currently going to the second stage go through that quick disconnect. That's that arm that reaches out from the tower to the base of the second stage. The SpaceX team continues to check in with the Coast Guard. Good news is we've not heard any reports of boats in the safety perimeter as the launch vehicle heads out over the Gulf of Mexico. So right now, T-minus 10 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. Everything continues to go well for an on-time launch.
Now, today's test flight is taking place out of our Starbase facility in South Texas, and that test site has gone through a huge amount of development over the last couple of years.
One thing I want to point out, this is a great view from our drone. Not only can we see the pad, but in the fog, kind of in the distance, in the background and to the left of the pad, you can actually see our production facility, which is the other part of Starbase in addition to the launch pad.
Of course, as part of rapidly iterating with our test program, we're also rapidly iterating on our production system to produce Starships and Super Heavies. Last year, the Starbase team produced 4 Starship Super Heavy boosters and 5 Starships, along with their 200th Raptor 2 engine. And they're only scaling up from there, Kate.
Eu tô aqui também, não só assistindo, como gravando aqui, transmitindo.
Incredible, and it's important to have that system fill in basically the manufacturing line so that we have product ready to go as soon as we're done with this test.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I mean, we talked about how Starship is an
Deixa
order
eu
of magnitude more
retweetar
propellant,
qualquer coisa aqui que vai direto
payload
pro
to orbit. But if you're going to go set
Telegram.
up a base on the moon or Mars, you're going to need thousands of metric tons of propellants. And so you're going to need a fleet of vehicles that's capable of doing that.
Yeah, one thing to note, Starbase directly employs more than 1,800 employees. It's the largest employer in the area, in fact. And we're very thankful to
9
Cameron County
minutos.
for
Olha
being
só,
so
pessoal,
supportive.
se cotovelando
This
aqui na
is a
praia.
view from the Cameron County Amphitheater, and
Cara, que espetáculo isso. Eu vou botar aqui só na transmissão da SpaceX.
As well, that everyone's getting really exciting. I feel my own heart rate going up and up.
I know, it must be really, really exciting to go see this. And I mean, just the sheer amount of power on Starship, you're going to feel it down there when this thing lifts off from the pad. They got a great shot here of the natural surroundings around the pad. Oddly enough, most of the pads end up being around sort of wild locations like this.
Dá para melhorar essa imagem,
like
tem
this.
360.
Coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, I think it's another
Vou
good time
upar
for
esse aqui eu não
checking with
suporto,
John.
1080, vamos ver.
John.
Ó, deu uma melhorada.
Thank you, Seja. T-minus just over 8
Considerável, na verdade.
test flight of Starship. Currently, we are
Agora, vamos
pressurizing second stage. We are also closing
relaxar e acompanhar.
liquid oxygen and fuel header loads on the second stage. We're also getting ready for
É isso aí, pessoal. É o que tem para hoje. Olha isso, cara.
on the first stage.
Troço
And,
impressionante.
we are just now closing out header tank load on the second stage.
Troço impressionante.
Tanks loaded and closed out. That means we're down to just the first stage to finish loading. That'll finish about T-minus 3 minutes. And at that point, when both stages are loaded, we will have the 10 million pounds of liquid propellant on board. Now, in the next few minutes, the guidance system will begin its final alignment for
Drone
flight
talvez
during a quiet
filmando,
period when the rocket's not doing anything.
já que não pode
Automated
ter
flight
nada voando
system
perto,
will
né?
be armed,
Nenhuma
and a final
aeronave pilotada por humanos, nem navios, nem
will be
barcos, nada.
performed. Those are
Por
the
bom
engine
perímetro.
windows, and hopefully we'll be able to see that with the cameras underneath the vehicle and maybe
Olha
even the
isso,
second
cara.
stage engines. And there's a view looking underneath the super heavy first stage.
33
with the 33
motores
Raptor
prontos para dar
engines.
tudo.
Now, a reminder as we continue counting down, if we do need to hold, the point where we hold
Já ouço o pessoal gritando ao fundo, né?
we can
Deixa eu ver se o volume tá.
pause there.
Ok.
Typically in the past, if we need a little bit more time to finish final checkouts or do some pressurization of the onboard storage tanks, that's where we would hold. But currently, we're not hearing a need to hold. So at 6 minutes, 27 seconds, everything looks good. And of course, Kate Shiva, as we get close, we're going to get into the engine ignition sequence of 33 Raptors, and that's going to be something new for everybody.
I cannot wait for that moment. So, for those of you that are familiar with how we launch
Muita
Falcon 9
ansiedade no ar.
rockets, you probably know that we light all 9 of those first stage Merlin 1D engines all at once. It's pretty different than what we do or what we're attempting to do
muita
today.
ansiedade.
We're actually going to be igniting those 33 engines in banks or clusters, and that sequence starts at T-minus 6 seconds.
Yeah, and the ignition sequence is a little bit different, both in terms of the timing and also the ignition method. So on Falcon 9, we use a chemical called T-Tab. It's a pyrophoric material, so that means when you mix the two together, it produces a flame that kicks off that green characteristic spark on Falcon 9 missions. But actually on Starship, we use electrical ignition systems. Many of those are integrated on the ground system here. And the electrical ignition
São prepotentes, né? Para falar o mínimo, né? Aquela arrumação daqueles motores ali, eu troço.
For 4 seconds, the 3 sets of banks will ignite. and eventually bring the booster up to a thrust to weight greater than 1 and hopefully ascend.
Super exciting. Like we said, pretty different from our Falcon 9 launches, and so this will be the first time that any of us have gotten to see this type of integrated test flight with both the Starship and the Super Heavy booster.
Everyone's cheering as we get into T-minus 5 minutes.
We want to remind everyone that success today is anything.
Será que vai?
This will be the first time of integrated test flight with both.
Yeah, it looks fun down there. I kind of want to go join them.
For today, success is anything that we learn that helps improve the future builds of Starship. If we lift off and clear the pad, we're calling that a win.
A great shot of the pad there. A great shot of the quick disconnect on the second stage. You can see the frost line on the booster where that methane is fully topped up. I think we're just coming up on the last few minutes here of propellant fill on the booster. Now that quick disconnect is going to separate away as we actually get into the ignition sequence, but it's providing electrical connections now and also providing the propellants that we're loading into the vehicle.
Yeah. We're just now under 4 minutes until liftoff of the Starship flight test. We've been following along for what honestly seems like days and days now, but really it kind of comes down to years. It has been
Olha, pela fumaceira o foguetão tá todo talo, né, de combustível. Tá saindo por tudo que é duto de ventilação.
Have the opportunity to hold, if necessary, at 40 seconds.
Que loucura,
and we are able to hold there for about 15 minutes, or up to 15 minutes. And still be able to lift off.
O pessoal tá que não se aguenta, né?
Falcon, for the propellant sequence on Falcon that we don't have the opportunity to hold. So that's
há uma expectativa de que o lançamento danifique também a torre, né?
10 seconds and counting. We've got some great views from the
Se
drone.
não danificar, vai ser lucro.
It's nice that the fog is slowly lifting. We get some of the blue skies, hopefully good views. What we're waiting for right now is closeout of propellant loading on the first stage. That should be wrapping up here shortly. In fact, it looks like fuel fill and drain valves are coming closed. That means first stage is fully loaded. Second stage fully loaded. And at 10 million pounds of propellant on board the Starship launch vehicle.
I want to take a quick moment to say that the crowd energy here
Que fantástico isso, cara. Pensar que tem pessoas que pensam que tudo é trucagem, né? O ser humano não foi à Lua. Tudo para enganar o povo.
Flight termination system arms at T-minus 2 minutes. Thrust vector control checkouts at T-minus 2 minutes. And then after that, major activity will be the T-minus 40 second
Essa corrida espacial que trouxe de benefícios, né? Tudo que eles descobrem, inventam lá para utilizar lá é aplicado em outras coisas depois, né? Então há um efeito cascata, né, disso. O investimento não é perdido. Quanta coisa eles tiveram que desenvolver para tornar possível, né? Ó, tá numa orgia lá que Deus me livre. Para eles é lucro, né? Mesmo que exploda. É o coroamento aí de anos, né, de trabalho.
I think we can see those wiggles now.
We're currently inside 90 seconds. Next major activity, T-minus 40 seconds. That is a gate, a decision point. We're waiting possibility the propulsion team may need a few minutes. Flight termination system is armed for flight. We're getting ready for T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Tem que baixar aqui porque é irritante, cara. Imagina se tudo correr bem, né? Que festa não vai ser. Escuta isso. Ó, 30 segundos, vou grudar o olho aqui. Ó. Vai haver a contagem lá junto com o pessoal, certamente.
Okay, you can see the clock is recycled. Flight director has called a hold. We are recycling. For the moment, we'll see where they move the clock back to. They could hold at T-minus 40 seconds. They could go to an earlier point. Give us a minute to listen into the nets, and we'll see if we can get you more information to share.
Ah, vai dar scrub, será? Que droga, não acredito. Que suspense. E agora? O que que deu? Qual é a checagem?
John Innsbrucker again here at the Hawthorne webcast desk. We're holding a T-minus 40 seconds. What we've heard so far is we have a couple of issues we're working. One is the booster tank pressurization. Final pressurization was just a little bit long. That's not unusual. We've held at T-minus 40 seconds before to pressurize. That appears to have been resolved. At the same time on the second stage, they're working some final purging. We should know very shortly if that is cleared and if we'll continue the countdown.
Everyone, especially that person, is excited to keep going. Like John said, we should know shortly if we are able to continue. But as we mentioned before, we are able to hold up to 15 minutes and still be able to lift off today.
Yeah, on Falcon 9, it's a little bit different. Once we start propellant loading, we pretty much have to go at the targeted time. Otherwise, the propellants can warm up and we may not have the performance for that particular mission profile. It's a little bit different different on
And
Starship.
folks, if I can interrupt.
Yeah.
Looks like they're clearing all the flags, and we're going to release at T-minus 40 seconds.
That is amazing news.
Amazing.
Team working quickly through their issues on first and second stages.
And I'm sure all of the rehearsals and simulations that they've been doing have prepared them to evaluate this data quickly to try to get us in for today's launch attempt.
For those of you just joining, we have a
Acho que paralisaram a contagem para uma checagem final de alguma coisa, né?
The team is resolving one issue with the bleed purge on the stage 2 Raptors. Like John just said, the teams are quickly working that, and it looks like the flags are being cleared as we speak. So we should be able to resume the launch countdown any moment now.
And it's worth noting on Starship that once we resume the countdown, it restarts from the 40-second period, and then we keep going unless another condition pops up. So stick around, because Starship could be going here real soon.
Don't walk away, that's for sure. Amazing views here coming to us from Starbase, Texas.
Cheering to close the start again.
Olha aí, retomou a contagem. Ai, o povo é o delírio. Olha.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dale! Jesus! Lá vai! O sacane deve estar morrendo nessa hora. Sobe, desgraça! Vai derreter essa torre! Caraca, olha isso, que impressionante, cara! Vai, vai, vai. Meu Deus.
Booster upper chamber pressure is nominal.
Caramba, cara.
T-plus 43 seconds into the test flight.
Ah, tomara que não dê nada errado.
Inaugural Starship vehicle, tower cleared, into pitch over. Propulsion reports first stage engines nominal. What a sight from the ground cameras at Starbase. We're flying at twice the thrust of the Saturn V heading into space.
Acquisition of signal, surface proceed.
We're throttled down and throttled back up.
O esquema dos motores mostrando ali que talvez os que estão sendo desativados, estão parando por alguma razão. Olha, cara, isso vai dar
As the
ruim.
velocity increases, the density of the atmosphere is decreasing, lessening stress on the vehicle. The call out, max
Parece
Q
normal o
now.
desenvolvimento. Eu acho que é programado mesmo o desligamento dos motores.
Continuing to watch the first stage as we head downrange. "100 seconds into flight.
Não trava tanto no disco.
Our next major activity is going to be shutdown of the first stage. The Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle. With shutdown, we will get separation of Starship and Super Heavy and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates,
Parece
we light up
constante a
6 engines in a
aceleração,
staggered
tudo ocorrendo
sequence.
conforme
If all goes well, those 6
planejados.
engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship.
Aí, Leandrowski,
And there's views of the
Photoshop já está acontecendo. 20 km de altura.
Prepare for stage separation. Now after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf.
Jesus.
Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds. Let's get ready for main engine cutoff.
Tá manobrando para lá e para cá.
Beginning to flip for stage separation.
Vai me perder o controle. Deu um loop, é isso? O que está acontecendo? Alguém me orienta. Vai explodir. Não deu certo. Não era para estar fazendo isso.
As of right now, we are awaiting stage separation. Our Starship should separate from the super heavy
Por que
booster.
ele está girando? Caindo a altitude.
Yeah, Kate, right now it looks like we saw the start of the flip, but obviously we're seeing from the ground cameras the entire Starship stack continuing to rotate. We should have had separation by now. Obviously, this does not appear to be a nominal situation.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning, but I do want to remind everyone that everything after clearing the tower was icing on the cake.
Não deu, né? Que lamentável, cara.
And there, as you saw, as we promised, an exciting end to the Starship inaugural integrated test flight.
Diversão garantida. Olha! Quero ver os destroços dessa coisa. Comemorem que vocês fizeram merda. Subiu a 30 km, começou a rodopiar, explodiu. Destruição controlada na Terra.
To clear the pad and make it this far into the test flight, the first integrated flight of the booster and the Starship vehicle.
É lindo.
Live
Foi
there of our control center
alguns milhões de dólares.
Starbase, which we refer
Não
to
sei
as
se não bilhões.
As we said before, obviously we wanted to make it all the way through, but to get this far, honestly, is amazing.
Well, if you're just joining us, Starship just experienced what we call a rapid unscheduled disassembly, or a RUD, during ascent. But now this was a development test. This is a first test flight of Starship.
Bom, se é uma coisa que eles estão acostumados é com os insucessos, né? Para chegar ao sucesso, obviamente se falha algumas vezes.
To go again, so you never know exactly what's going to happen.
Faz parte, né, da caminhada espacial.
But as we promised, excitement is guaranteed.
Muito eles vão aprender com
Starship gave us a rather spectacular end.
Quais foram as falhas?
But was truly an incredible test thus far.
As we mentioned at the start of today's program, any and all the data that we collected during the test is going to help us with further development of Starship, and it's going to improve the vehicle's reliability as SpaceX seeks to make life multiplanetary. It's really worth noting that the flight path was designed to be over water and all the air and sea space. Along with that flight path and those surrounding areas cleared in advance of the test. And of course, we're going to be coordinating with local
Se não me engano, eles estão com 4 foguetes prontos, né? Então, com intervalo aí talvez de mês, 1 mês, 2 meses, eles vão fazer novos testes.
Oh my gosh.
Corrigindo os bugs, né?
We had a successful liftoff from Starbase.
Vão corrigir os erros e retomar. Mas subiu perfeito, né? Muito bonito, e o que já preocupou em seguida foi alguns motores, né, aparentemente terem falhado. Isso pode ter prejudicado a manobra lá em cima, né? That's okay. Está tudo bem. Tudo acabou com uma bela explosão. Provavelmente já sobre o mar, né? Irão cair os destroços, né? Não vai oferecer risco a ninguém.
My face has that smile on it since liftoff, and now my face hurts. Now, since we don't have any insight on the cause of our rapid unscheduled assembly at this point, we're going to end our webcast here. Teams will our SpaceX team on an exciting first integrated flight test of Starship, and of course a shout out to our viewers. We appreciate you joining us, and as always, we thank you for your interest in Starship, SpaceX, and your ongoing support.
Não prolongaram muito, não, a transmissão, porque não há muito mais que transmitir, né? O troço subiu e explodiu. Essa montagem aqui resume, né, os momentos marcantes. Fez uma bela nuvem, né, ao ser lançado, né, tapou tudo. Tem que ser avaliado ainda os estragos lá embaixo, né, na torre. Subiu bem, até que aparentemente falharam alguns motores. 1, 2, 3, 4, talvez 5 motores. E lá em cima perderam o controle. Tiveram que destruir, né? Acho que foi uma destruição controlada, não foi explosão acidental. Ela é um frustrado, mas ao mesmo tempo sabe que isso faz parte. Tanto sabe que tem mais 4 foguetes prontos para ser lançados assim que eles acharem conveniente. Faz parte. Aqui já temos imagem dos destroços caindo, né? Olha isso, essa imagem não teve na SpaceX. Ou teve. Mas vão surgir novas. Muito respeito. Sim, o feito é gigantesco. Uma pena que não deu para desacoplar, né? Não deu tempo. de continuar o teste com a parte de cima, né? Pelo tanto de combustível, aparenta não ter sido uma grande explosão, né? A maioria já havia sido queimado, né? Para chegar até os 30 km. Vamos ver o que mais temos. Já temos 25 segundos aqui deste momento maravilhoso. Demorou, né, para se elevar. Olha a nuvem. Subiu perfeitamente na vertical. Vai, filhão, como diz o Sacani. Let's go! Então tá, pessoal, não deu. Vamos ficando por aqui também. E espero poder ver o próximo teste, né? Então é isso aí. Até uma próxima.